with the wide receiver room that the Cleveland Browns already have, I think introducing that element, it's already a young team. I don't know that they have the guys in there, the leaders in the locker room that can absorb a personality like Dez Bryant. I'm not saying that Dez is a bad player, but I think Dez, in terms of fit, in terms of who he is as a person, it's got to be with a veteran ball club. It's not the Cleveland Browns. Even though from a skill set perspective, I think he would add something to that team, I just don't like his personality in that locker room. Not for where the Cleveland Browns as an organization is right now.
No, I hear you. I think that's a huge red flag. If I signed Dez and I'm Cleveland, I would want it to be an incentive-laden contract where 1 year incentive-laden, where if you act up, you cause problems, I can get rid of you quickly. Although maybe he could still do enough damage in whatever brief time he was there to ruin the season. But I think Baker Mayfield, too, seems to have the personality where he would go back at Dez. You know, but I just wonder if Dez is motivated enough. I don't want to say he's been humbled. I don't think he has been humbled.
If you check his Twitter account, you can see that he hasn't been
exactly.
humbled.
I don't think he's been humbled enough. But there's certainly the motivation for him to have a great season, the best season he can possibly have at this point in his career, and also be a good guy because we know next year he wants a big contract. So that's the saving grace. But I totally hear you on it's a risk because of his personality.
I think it's interesting that the Patriots haven't reached out. I think that might tell you a little, all you need to know. Here the Patriots are desperately in need of wide receiving help. He wouldn't cost them a lot of money. They've taken on veteran players in the past. There's no challenging the authority of Tom Brady in terms of who runs that locker room, and they haven't picked up the phone and called. That would send signals to me if I'm Cleveland, where I'm at the opposite end of the spectrum. I got a head coach who's hanging on for his job. I have a quarterback in Tyrod Taylor who just led the Bills to the playoffs and believes he should be the starter the entire season. The pressure to play Baker Mayfield, that throws in look, there's a little Carmelo Anthony to this in that Carmelo can still play, Dez can still play, but are you willing to take a secondary or tertiary role? He got 133 balls thrown his way last year. That's not going to happen this year. And everyone will sit there in a meeting room and say, no, I'm okay not getting as many balls. But then on Sunday, you're still Dez Bryant. You're still throwing on 88. You're still used to the ball coming your way. Can you accept that, especially when you're playing for a team that didn't win a game last year and won one game the year before? That's really hard for your ego to accept. I would stay away if I was the Browns. And frankly, if I'm Dez, I wait till you have just the right team at just the right time. When a guy goes down, it might not be week one.
Doug, I think you brought up a valid point in terms of role on the field, but I look at more so the role in the locker room and that dynamic because, you know, Dez Bryant is an alpha. He's going to come in. He's going to bring some leadership qualities. Now, whether or not you want that to be the identity of your ball club, I'm not sure. But if you're the Cleveland Browns, there is no urgency in terms of trying to win and get into the postseason. Right now, it's all about development. That's not just with the players and their skill sets on the field, but that's actually allowing the emergence of leaders from your young ball club in the locker room. And so if you bring in Dez Bryant, you're naturally taking away an opportunity for another young guy to lead on that football team.
There's also this one thing, though. The team, the franchise wants to develop their young players, but the head coach wants to win so he can stay employed.
Well, Jimmy Haslam did come out earlier last week and say that this is like Hugh Jackson's first year because Sashi Brown and Paul DePodesta and their Moneyball approach to drafting players didn't work out. So this is almost like a fresh, clean start for Hugh Jackson. He did say clean slate.
But if you weren't hired by the general manager, that's a tough one, right?
That is a tough one. He's not John Dorsey's guy, but I feel like because Hugh Jackson is so good in terms of teaching the game, especially with guys on the offensive side of the ball, and you have a young quarterback in Baker Mayfield, I think they'll give that every opportunity to work out.
So it would be a risk for Cleveland. What about from Dez's perspective? Would that be a potential good fit for him and what he's trying to show? Does he wait and see if later on another team would be interested? From his side of things, what do you think he does?
Well, I don't think there's any downside if you're Dez Bryant. There's no place for the Cleveland Browns to go but up. They were 0-16 last year. They've won 31 over the last two. So if you're Dez Bryant and you step on that team and you're productive and they actually have some production in the way of wins, I think that reflects well on you. So it means that can create more of a market for you next year. And Chris, you said it. Dez Bryant is going to be motivated because it's going to be a one-year proposition, whatever contract that he signs with whatever team. He already turned down a 3-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens earlier this offseason. He's looking to cash in on the open marketplace. It's not going to happen this year, so he's going to be on his best behavior in hopes that it happens next offseason.
What do you think for the Browns? What do you think their ceiling is this season and what they could potentially do, given the fact they only had 1 win in the last 2 seasons?
Well, I like the defense. They've got some pieces over there. They're not as far off on that side of the ball as their record might say they were last year. But I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns and saying they're a 4 or 5 win ball club, and that's a big improvement for that team.
4 or 5 wins, wow.
Well, they won 1 game the last 2 years.
I know. Look, I'm from Cleveland, man. I was hoping you said 7 or 8.
Well, look. I mean,
at the ceiling.
Remember, Cincinnati kind of bottomed out here last year. They should be better. Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think they'll be as good without Chase here, but they're still Pittsburgh Steelers with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, and they like a lot of dudes.
Baltimore got a really good defense,
and Baltimore should have been in the playoffs last year. So I think you have to consider they're not. If they're in the AFC East, it might be a little bit different because you run up on the Jets or the Bills or the Miami Dolphins.
But you heard what Jarvis Landry said. He got a brother optimistic. He got a brother optimistic.
That sounds good in August when they're not playing real games. We'll see what happens when it kicks off in September.
Chris, thank you for being here with us.
We've
certainly enjoyed it.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.